Hey everyone, so if anyone doesn't know me, my name is Michelle Sanford. I work at Microsoft and I am also the chairman of the ACS in WA. If you don't know what that is, you should come and talk to me afterwards. Or George, who is my vice chair. Or in fact, Rebecca, who is chairman of DDDPerth and is also vice chair. I want to say thanks to our amazing sponsors, of which Microsoft is one of them, and so is ACS. But we couldn't really run DDDPerth if it wasn't for all of them. It has doubled in numbers every single year, and it's so exciting. And I'm hoping next year it will be 1,000, because there were 800 trying to register for this one today. Okay, so I started this journey by seeing something about the 100 Days of Code challenge, and I thought, could I raise a robot army if I had no instruction and no prior knowledge, and the only thing that I knew was I needed to spend an hour a day in the code? This is the story of of how possible that is. So I did the first thing and asked the internet how to do it. It turns out that I am not the only one asking the internet that. And also the cheapest way to raise a robot army is to just pay like a couple of $100 and you can get an army of Russian bots to help you take over the world. So that's one way. I didn't go with that. We'll go with what I went with. So with Fight Club, the first rule of Fight Club is that you don't talk about Fight Club. And the second rule of Fight Club is that you don't talk about Fight Club. That is not the case with 100 Days of Code. There are only 2 rules, but they are kind of the opposite to that. So what that means is you have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want with your 100 days. A lot of people will just go to the 100 Days of Code website and it will point them at Free Code Camp. And so you can start just following those tutorials, and at the end of your 100 days you will be a front-end web developer, which is a pretty good outcome. But I kind of thought I want to do something with bots, and I want to do something with Python. So that was all I really had in my mind at the start of the 100 days. You don't need a lot to get started. There are a lot of tools out there that will help you just code in a web browser and will give you a sandbox, and you can do all sorts of tutorials without setting anything up at all. But if you want to really do something, these are kind of what I found as the basis. So I needed GitHub, Visual Studio Code, and Heroku. Those are all free, so you don't have to pay anything for them. You do not have to use those particular ones, but they are probably the most common. But you know, there are a lot of other options out there. These are what I really liked and what I used. So, the first rule of 100 Days of Code is you have to spend an hour a day in the code. And initially, when I was pretty new to coding, I thought, how am I going to spend an hour in the code? It's going to be too long. And I thought, well, I'd better find something that will help me track whether I've spent an hour. So I built this little thing, and it just tells me to keep coding until an hour is gone. And then at the end it says stop coding. It's not super accurate, so you know, you'd probably be better looking at your watch if you but if you let it go like this, you will definitely have done more than an hour in the code, because it will probably sort of pause more than it will speed up. Like, it won't speed up. The second rule is that you should tweet your progress every day. So in the beginning, you kind of feel stupid because you think I haven't done anything, or what I've done has all gone wrong, or what I've done makes no sense, or, you know, all of that stuff. And you're just you're tweeting out and you're just thinking, But the whole community is really very supportive, and you will get many retweets for those things that have the hashtag 100 Days of Code in there, and you will get some people tweeting back at you saying, keep at it, well done, you know, keep going, which is really nice, I think. As I went on, I found that the more useful thing to do would be to, if you make mistakes, you should share those mistakes so that people don't feel like when they look at your Instagram feed, that it's just a beautiful, perfect life where all your coding is glorious. But you should also, when you do have glorious code, you should also tweet about that too, because you want to celebrate your successes as well as laugh at your own mistakes. So there are only 2 rules in 100 Days of Code, but there are some more things that are not exactly rules. Give people shout-outs is one of them. So when someone has helped you with something, or when you've seen something that you think is really good, then you should read about that too. So I learned a lot about Python from Nina. She put up her she put up her Python courses, Fundamentals and Intermediate, on Front-End Masters for free for, I don't know how long, like 14 days or something. So I got through most of those before the free period ran out. And then by the time it was the end of the free period, I thought I'm going to buy a subscription to Front-End Masters because her courses were so good. And you want to know, if you're going to invest in yourselves, you want to know that the training you're investing in is worth something. So if you find something like that, then share that and say that you think it's good. So, there are only 2 rules in 100 rules of code, but there are more things. The first thing I discovered is that you really need to have a plan, because otherwise you start on day 1 and you don't know what you're doing at all. It took me like the whole day Saturday, to just download Python and all of the libraries and all of the extra things that you needed. And so I thought, I'm not going to record that as day 1, I'll record it as day 0. And then later on I realized that recording it as day 0 was a more programmatic thing to do. I mentioned using GitHub earlier, and when I first started using GitHub, I didn't really know what it was, apart from it seemed like a really cool thing to me, and I knew that Microsoft had bought it, so I thought it's probably worth something. Luckily, when you don't know how to use GitHub, they have a bot that will teach you how to use GitHub. And I thought, well, this is good, because I want to learn about bots, and the bot is going to teach me too. So he will teach you for free. And then after you have learned how to use GitHub from the bot, you could actually learn how to build a bot of your own using GitHub as well. So the first ones I learned were GitHub bots that sort of reply to comments and things like that. It's pretty cool. Oh yeah, that whole fork the repo and commit the log thing. That was like a foreign language, first of all, when I heard someone say that. They just said, yeah, go into GitHub and fork my repo and then you'll be fine. And I was just like, what? But yeah, I mean, it's super easy. I do that forking all the time now. I wrote a thing about this because this is This is important. So as a developer, it's best practice not only to anticipate, but also to prepare for errors. So and that's usually done through some sort of mechanism, typically called a fallback. And most programming languages have some sort of keyword along the lines of try and catch. So the logic being try some code, and if that doesn't work, catch the error and then handle it for your user. So you fall back to the error handling case. I wanted to have a fun fallback, a fun default, in case I got home from work and felt exhausted and like I didn't want to spend an hour in the code. And that was very often the case. So what we have here is code combat. How many of you have played this? Not many. How many of you have kids? Well, all of you that have kids should definitely play this. And all of you that don't have kids should definitely play this. It is a platform. It doesn't work. It's not an app. It's a web thing. So you can't really do it from your phone, but you can do it from your laptop. You can do it for free, first of all, for a lot of levels. I paid the $99 lifetime subscription because it has hundreds and hundreds of levels and 4 different worlds, and you can go through the whole thing to learn Python, and then you can wipe it and go back to the start and learn the whole thing in JavaScript. So it's definitely worth it. It teaches you to code by playing a game. So like the first one that you try is just like 1 line, and then it's 2 lines of code, and then it's 3 lines of code. This is obviously a very simple code, but like really, really long. And as you progress, it incentivizes you to shut down your code so that instead of it being like 20 or 30 lines there, if you could do it in 5 lines, that would give you a higher reward. But it doesn't expect you to do that in the beginning. So it's very nice, and it sort of winds down your brain. The other one is Solarlearn. That is an app. You can get that on your phone, and you can play that, when you're walking along the street, when you're on your commute, not if you're the driver, but but if you're on the train or something, or you're the passenger. It's not as much fun as Code Combat, but it does have like little tests and challenges and things, so it teaches you the basics. This one, I did have it playing the beautiful music from, what's it from? Gravity? That children's Wicked, from Wicked. Yeah, but it's not playing it for us now. But anyway, yeah. Why did I choose Python? Is this because it's magic is one of the reasons, because it's simple, because it's fun, because it comes with batteries included. So that's what they say to sort of summarize it has a lot of libraries built in so that you can do stuff without actually writing all the code for it. And also it has hidden Easter eggs in it. So this is one of the Easter eggs. If you type import anti-gravity from the command line, it brings up this little cartoon. So what I learned was that there were pretty much 2 kinds of chatbot that you could build. There's one that's sort of rules-based and it follows the rules. Those rules can get quite complex, or they can be very simple. And then there's ones that will learn for themselves. So I started from the very beginning with Scratch, which is what the kids learn. From when you're 7 years of age, you could learn Scratch. And I thought I should learn how to make a little chatbot in that. The blocks teach kids the logic of coding, and it's sort of a when someone clicks this, then you do that. When someone says this, then you do that. And just seeing the blocks clarifies in their mind how coding really works, and they can move straight from Scratch into Python, which is where I wanted to go. So I thought I'll start there. So this is Snickers playing with Cody Blocky. I thought I should have an actual physical bot in order to really satisfy the robot army thing. So I bought Cody Blocky on the internet, and it is something that you can program with, again, these Cody blocks. Or you can also then switch over to Python and teach it to do more complex stuff using that. Snickers was pressing the button there, and when she presses the button, it runs the code. She was doing that pretty well there, but later on I found her just chewing the bot, which is not really the goal. So I made a Snicker bot, which is modeled on Snickers. How many of you have Twitter? If you find her on Twitter right now, you could tweet her. So her thing is @botsnicker. And if you tweet her using either the hashtag DDDPerth or robotsrising, then she should reply to you. If you do not have the hashtags in there, she will not reply to you. If you put both of them in there, that would be okay. It doesn't drive her crazy. I have tested that this morning. If you reply on one of the replies or one of the tweets, that also doesn't drive her crazy. We're totally fine. So yeah, feel free to tweet to her, and she will hopefully tweet back, all going well. She does sometimes go rogue, but generally not today, I hope, because I didn't want to risk her going rogue, so I didn't leave her just running generically in the cloud. I have her under my control right here. So I initially got the basic code for that from this guy. He has a really nice video that taught me how to build my first Twitter bot. And yeah, it's a really nice video, and it's really clear and it's really explicit. And even though I think it's more than a year old, it still works, which is a problem with code and with cloud. A lot of stuff that you follow in tutorials is out of date in about 5 seconds, but this one's a good one. So this is the code pretty much the code that I used. No, in fact, that is the whole program, so it doesn't need any more than that to run that Twitter bot. So all it does here is when you tweet to it, she will reply with "Hi" at your Twitter name, "Nice to tweet you," or just, one little sentence. The keys for the Twitter bot are in the code. Those are not my keys. Those are sample keys. That was one of the things I found really confusing in the beginning, because people would put, insert your keys here, and I was like, does that include the quote marks around it? How do I know? Does the keys look like this? Is this what it's expecting? But anyway, they look like that. They look exactly like that, but different, because that's not mine. Those two lines at the top, import Tweepy and import time, those are the two libraries that it uses. So Tweepy kind of tells it how to do the stuff with Twitter, and time is literally for this one little bit at the bottom where it says hold off for 15 seconds, because if your bot tweets rapidly, Twitter will shut you down. So you have to make her pause. So all it's doing really at the top, it's saying those are the keys. Hit authenticate against Twitter. It didn't used to do that, so there's a lot of tutorials that don't explain the authentication part, and then of course you can't get anything working if you don't have that in. And then that last known ID, that is to stop it going crazy like she often does when she's in the cloud and just forgetting that she's already replied to your tweet and replying to your same tweet like 50 times more. So it should take the ID of the last tweet that it saw, store that in a file, and then check that before sending a reply to a tweet. And then in this bit, it is just saying, look for the hashtag when you see. So here it's hashtag Snickers. Respond back with hi at, and then nice to tweet you. So it's really pretty simple. If anyone is worried that about following the tutorials, I do have a GitHub with the instructions on there, so you don't really need to make any notes. Okay, so then after I'd done that, I thought I will learn how to get it running through the cloud, because otherwise it's just running on your desktop, and when your desktop is down, then your Twitter bot is down. So I initially looked at Azure, because I'm working at Microsoft and, use Azure. But there are a lot of choices in there. There's a lot of things you can do, there's a lot of choices, and when you are in your first 30 days of code, you will be confused by all of the options that you have. So I found then Heroku, which is a PaaS system, which will then, all you need to do in Heroku is sort of click on a button that says create new app, and then attach or load your code into it, and that's pretty much it. So it's super easy with no choices. Oh yeah, there are other clouds available, of course. However, after I was more than 30 days in, I did go back to Azure to see what else I could do, and there's really a lot of fun things you can do in there that you can't do just on your own with code and with a PaaS system. Here, what I was looking at is connecting the different channels. So, you can connect it to Facebook or to Skype or to Teams or Twilio or like a million other things. And more of those will probably appear over time. I only learned to connect it to Facebook quite recently, but I was very impressed with myself when I did. What you can see down this side, all of these resources were all the other things I was learning to do with the bot. So I did some stuff with sort of facial recognition and cognitive services where it could recognize my dogs, and it could sort of recognize, are they a Shih Tzu or are they not a Shih Tzu? Are they a dog still or not a dog? And specifically, are they Leo, Snickers, or Shoo Shoo, or are they some other dog? And I did put some of their friends in that were kind of like Alsatians and Kelpies that are completely different from small fluffy dogs, and it could pick those out too. So that was pretty cool. Once you're confident with what you're doing, there's a lot of fun stuff that you can plug into it. Some of those are the Lewis stuff as well. So these bots that I'm showing you today are all kind of dumb bots, but you can make a smart bot by using the language stuff. Oh, I did have some really funny videos of me just making faces at the camera where I was doing sentiment analysis. So yeah, there's really a lot of cool things you can do once you start learning about the bots. So, back to the Snicker bot. This was kind of a better bot, so she's a little bit better than the initial Snicker bot is. In this one, the first thing that I was super pleased with myself about was not having the keys in the code. So the first step after having the keys in the code is actually putting the keys in a different file and then having Git ignore those keys so that it doesn't publish them on GitHub. This is the next step after that, where you don't have the keys in the code at all. You tell it to look in the cloud system that you're running it through. So you load them in as operating system environment variables. And there's kind of like just a space in there where you fill those in. And then that tells it to look for them there. But that means that you need more lines at the top. So where it says import tweaky, import time that we had before, you also need import OS. And the OS is the thing that's going to know about those operating system variables. And then I have import random, because I'm going to have it give you random answers to your tweets. So from a file called messages that I have created separately. So then it does pretty much the same thing as it did before, but depending on what hashtag you use, it does a different thing. So if you do DDDPerth, it will give you an answer from one file, and if you do Rising Robots, it will give you an answer from another file, and it will, if you do Snickers, I think it will just do the same one-liner that it was doing previously. So it's kind of using if statements and elif statements. And just before I figured out that if I put some breaks in there, then it wouldn't go crazy when it found unexpected stuff. But I was pretty happy with that. So then this is the next one that I found really useful. This one is a blog on the Twilio website, and from there I used how to make the bot into a Facebook bot instead of a Twitter bot. So it's not, I can't figure out how to make Facebook make the bot public. They just keep rejecting my bot, but it does answer me. So I'm typing in blue and it's sending responses there. This one, it uses yeah, what the, I should have had my glasses on because I can't see what what I used there. Oh yeah, it's using Flask. So this is using Flask, which is a slightly different web front end than I previously used. And yeah, all of that stuff in the middle is related to the Facebook thing. And it is getting these. So it also has a similar kind of messages file that it takes the stuff from. But the one that he had written in the tutorial, he said would just be a like a nice bot. The goal was for it to just tweet out nice things from it, and that was what I used for my template for this one. Then I thought I would like to be a little bit smarter, so I tried this Azure tutorial. This one only takes 48 minutes to do, and it uses Q&A Maker. So what I liked about this is that you could load up a whole bunch of information, like from a wiki or something like that. So if you were running a help desk, you could run your help desk scripts through it. But it would also learn. So from the fact that you are having questions and answers with it, it will learn from those. So you can train it within the Q&A Maker thing. After that, you could then go on and incorporate some Lewis stuff in it as well. So it could look at your intent, and it could try and form answers based on what it thought you were trying to ask. So this is, so I built it in Azure, and that's the web test there. But then in order to front end it, I ran it again through the same Facebook Messenger thing. And so this one, it knows about bots, and you can ask it questions about bots, and it will answer questions about bots. But if you ask it something else that is not about bots, it will still answer. And there were things in there that I didn't put in there that it that it answered, but I only really noticed them when other people were playing with it, because obviously in my head I knew what questions to ask it. And then I asked my husband to have a look, and he said, "What is your name?" Like that. I never thought anyone would ask it what its name is when I said ask it about bots, but it said, "What is in a name?" And I thought that's very philosophical. It had a few surprising answers like that. So yeah, that's a fun thing to play with. So, what I have learned. This is from the tutorial on the Twilio website, and it said if you want to create a requirements document, requirements file, you can just type pip3 freeze greater than requirements text, and you will get a file that looks like this. And then my file looked like that. And I just thought, oh, but it turns out that's totally fine. The reason it's like that is because I have, installed everything in the world, because I didn't know what I might need and what I might not need, and all of these things look good. So yeah, there's more than I need there. You can cut them out as well. So if you know that your code is only using Flask and it's not using Django as well, which obviously it wouldn't be, you can take out all the other stuff and just put things in it's definitely needing. The advantage of having those in the requirements file is that when you try to run it in the cloud, it will run correctly on the right versions and it won't, error. That there's a lot of free tutorials out there. That was one of the things I learned. Because I did, I bought some. I bought Front-End Webmasters, which was really good, and I bought the Code Combat thing. But also, a lot of the things that I followed for free were really, really good as well. And I do recommend the Twilio one, because not just the great blogs, but the learn how to use it by playing a game thing really appeals to me. Are there gamers in the audience? A few, yeah. It's super fun, and they've just released a full game version on early access, which I'm completely addicted to already. Then I also learned that if you don't know what to do, you can just ask. You can ask the community. You can tweet it out, and people will tweet back at you and tell you what the answer is. Phil gave me a lot of answers and didn't make me feel stupid at all. And not just Phil, like a lot of people, when something goes wrong and you just can't figure it out and you're about to cry, then just tweet and people will help you, and no one ever says that was a stupid question. Or if they do, if you do, you're in the wrong place. Don't follow those people anymore. Look away from them. This is more good advice from Nina. In that you don't feel it at the start of your 100 days of code. You really feel like you don't know anything, but as you go on, you start to feel like you really know, and the stuff that was so hard at the beginning becomes really obvious. But it is practice. It isn't an innate talent that was born in the developer gods. Here's Phil again, helping me. Sometimes it really isn't anything. So a lot of the times it was a stupid syntax error in your code, but sometimes you do just turn it off and on again and suddenly it works. And Phil said that happens to him all the time too. So here is where I have documented the tutorial. So it is a GitHub repository called Rise of the Robots, and there's a code directory in there where you can get code, and there is also a docs directory where I have put this first document. It's not yet it's not yet perfect in that I see that I just said, go to the Twitter app developer page and just fill that stuff in. That isn't enough if it's your first time to the Twitter app developer page, because you're looking at all the things to fill in and you're thinking, what do I put in there? So I will put a screenshot of what that looks like so that people can see it. It's just that when you try to write the documentation, it's super boring. But from the good documentation I followed, I realized that the most explicit documentation is the best documentation. And so the best thing that I can do for those that come after me is to write really explicit documentation. So I will improve it. However, if you would also like to help me do that, do feel free to, fork that repo and make a pull request. I'll add more in there as I carry on, because I will not stop at the 100 days. I think there's still so much more to learn, and so many things I was distracted by along the way. So I don't have a robot army. I only have 3 robots currently, or maybe 4, and it's not enough to take over the world. So I'm going to have to keep going beyond the 100 days. Close your eyes. Wait, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. And I'll just read you the poem. So beautiful is better than ugly. Explicit is better than implicit. Simple is better than complex. Complex is better than complicated. Flat is better than nested. Sparse is better than dense. Readability counts. Special cases aren't special enough to break the rules. Although practicality beats purity, errors should never pass silently unless explicitly silenced. In the face of ambiguity, refuse the temptation to guess. There should be one, and preferably only one, obvious way to do it, although that way may not be obvious at first unless you're Dutch. Now is better than never, although never is often better than right now. If the implementation is hard to explain, it's a bad idea. If the implementation is easy to explain, it may be a good idea. Namespaces are one honking great idea. Let's do more of those. So I can open your eyes. That is one of the other Easter eggs from Python. So when you type import this, it brings up this poem, which is known as the Zen of Python. And it is when you code like this, you code pythonically, is what they say. So I really like it because there are all these beautiful little tricks. But if you type that again, import this, it won't bring it up a second time. It'll bring it up only the first time. Okay, and then we're all done.